Welcome back to Human Movement. Glad you're here with me. Today you will need some kind of stick, so get that ready, and that's about it. We're gonna have a few movements today, and we're gonna focus on them very intensely to get a lot out of them. So let's begin with our neck. We'll do a little joint mobility to get going. I'm gonna have you tuck your chin to your chest, trace your collarbone and look to one shoulder, look over that shoulder, trace the collarbone back down, and then trace the other collarbone and look over the other shoulder now. And a couple more reps back and forth just like so, please. Taking some breaths in and out, keeping those shoulders set in one position as you trace the collarbone back and forth. Good, one more. And finish off that rep. Very, very nice. Good. Let's shake out a little bit of that tension with just some simple shoulder shrugs. And all we're doing here is keeping the elbows nice and relaxed and a big circular motion with our shoulder blades. Okay, just a couple more. Already done probably 10 or 12, other way. Okay, and just being really attentive that the shoulder blades are doing the work, not really the elbows. Okay. Now let's keep going the same direction and add some big arm circles. Okay, just a couple of these, 3, 2, 1, other direction. Nice, open up the chest a little bit, okay? Get the rib cage moving as you breathe in and out. Good, a little shoulder screw next. Both palms are up, one palm turns down, continues to turn backwards and optionally upwards towards the ceiling. Other side right away. So the one arm does nothing as we go back and forth a couple times here. Don't feel like you need to go as far as I am. Stop at the floor, stop facing backwards, whatever's right for you. Good, nice. Okay, let's do a few thoracic reach backs. We all know I love these. Knees are a bit bent, hips are square and facing forwards. Gonna rotate towards me like so, okay? Keeping the hip where it is. Add an arm to reach behind you. Other side. Okay, other side again. Switching back and forth. Pretty smooth to quick pace here. Not going slow. One more. Good. Okay, let's do some hip circles. I want your feet pretty narrow for these. Kick your hips to the side. Hold for a second. What does that feel like? Now reach the hips backward, more in kind of a bent over good morning position. Hold for a second. Assess how that feels. Other side, lateral side. As you come forward, squeeze the butt. Just one more per direction now. A little bit smoother. Okay, and you're trying to control each range of motion, that you're not moving faster or slower in any given ranges. Other direction, one more time. Good. Let's do the same thing now with our knees. You can widen your feet a little bit if you want to for comfort. Wider can be a little bit more stressful on the knees, so you can be narrower if you're a little bit more new with loading your knees. Kiss your knees inwards, hold for a second, and now drive them forwards as they're touching together. Separate them, reach them outwards, lock them out backwards, touch them inwards one more time. Keep them touching as you reach forwards, and now separating, outwards, distancing, lock them out, touching forward the third time, but now we're going to reverse. Let's lock out the knees, reach knees apart from one another, reach knees forwards, touch them in, one more that direction, locked out, outwards, forwards, nice. Good, that's all, just some simple joint mobility to get us going. We're gonna go next into a superset, 2 movements, and the movements are gonna change slightly each time we go through them, but they're always gonna be kind of the same theme. We're gonna do a hip hinging movement and then a shoulder-based movement, but they will change here and there. So for our hinging to start, we're gonna do a straddle good morning, okay? So conventionally a good morning, you can practice with me if you want to. Knees are 90% or 100% straight as you bend over. So we're getting a stretch to the back of the legs. The back is flat. What I want us to do here is comfortably widen the feet, okay? Wider is going to be more advanced, less wide, less advanced. I'll let you pick what's going to happen. As we hinge here in a second, you should feel something in the adductors perhaps, but also in the hamstrings still, okay? Keeping the back flat, hinging at the hip joint, not rounding through our spine. So I like to think about reaching my forehead long in front of me as I bend through the hips. First few repetitions, let's go slowly and just really dial down, feel the movement. Reach your hips backwards in space. Take your time as you come up and probing for what does it feel like, right? What are the areas of your body that are experiencing a stretch or tension or challenged because maybe there's more of a strength aspect to this for you. Okay, if you want to turn the toes out a little bit more, that is fine. But as we hinge back and forth a few more times, again, reach hips back, reach hips back, reach hips back. The spine is flat. You're not going to round through your low back. Should you round, you're just going to stop there, and that's your range of motion for today. We're going to do 2 more. We're going to hold this last one for about 15 seconds. Quite a long pause. You can see me narrowing. Feet are sliding a little bit, so it's getting a little bit more narrow. Hold now 15 seconds, and while we're holding, reach the hips backwards, create a stretch to the hamstrings, okay? Bend the knees a little bit if you need to, or keep them completely straight. Okay, reach the head long, the spine is flat. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gently come on out. Good. Make your way out of that. Let's grab your stick, which I'm sure you've prepared because you were well warned that you needed it today. Sometimes I forget to warn people. Let's do a really simple stretch next for some overhead shoulder flexion. Some people might not get a lot out of this. Some people really enjoy this, okay? So whether you're in one of those 2 parties, we're going to do this one no matter what. Put your palm on the top of your object. Hopefully it's not sharp, okay? You're going to think about your lower fist as your guiding fist. Keep your chest square with me. And using your guiding fist, I just want you to reach the top arm back and up behind you, okay? So we're creating a little passive shoulder flexion stretch here by smoothly, slowly pushing the knuckles of the top hand behind us. So the knuckles are facing a wall behind you should you be standing in a room. I don't know, maybe you're doing this outside. Okay? Elbow is straight. And if you watch me from the side, you do not need to over push this, okay? So I'm a little bit beyond 180 degrees. But if I go much further than that, I'm really going to start to engage through my spine and maybe even just pinch through my shoulder too much. So find a comfortable range that passively you can bring your shoulder to overhead. That feels good. 1 more. No pause in this one. We're just going to do 1 more rep, reaching backwards. Note how the arm stays somewhat close to the ear, down with control. I'm trying not to be too wide for what we're trying to get out of today's stretch. Other side, palm on your object. Start to bring that arm overhead, okay? We're calling that we want the knuckles be facing backwards as we finish overhead. Elbow straight. Bicep is somewhat close to the ear. It doesn't need to be touching. Probably shouldn't be touching for what we're doing. But a couple centimeter, couple inch gap is good. And try and keep that chest facing me. Because here's what happens a lot of times with people. They start to think about their guiding fist. They start to just kind of turn. And instead of stretching their shoulder, they're just rotating their spine. So chest stays square with me as we do about 2 more reps. For some of you, it might not even be all the way 180 degrees overhead. It might be a little bit in front of the body. That's fine. More. Find what feels good for you. Good. Nice. We are going to use your stick again, so don't put it too far away. Round 2 for our hinging movement. Let's do our classic one-legged good morning. I do these very often, but I really enjoy them because we target one leg and then the other. A lot of people just always do bending over work bilaterally, 2-legged, but if you address them individually, we see results a lot faster. So sometimes people get confused, so pay attention. Right foot is flat, left heel's off the floor. Because my right foot is flat, I have 90% or 100% of the weight on this foot. I can take this foot off the floor if I'm advanced, okay? It can remain on the floor with as much help as I need to. Just like with the straddle, good morning, hinge at your hip, drive your hips backwards with a long reaching forehead. The spine is flat. We're gonna go up and down. So, a little bit newer slash a little bit intermediate is keeping that left foot, heel off the floor, assisting. So it's always holding 10% of the body weight, but you should be feeling the stretch on the right leg because that is the leg you are putting 90% of the weight onto. So as you hinge backwards, there's more load and it takes more force to create the movement on the biased leg. Of course, take off the foot. If you're more advanced, take off that foot, hinge on one leg, ideally to a position you can keep a flat back. Okay, couple more. And just like our straddle, good morning, we're gonna add a pause. So on the next repetition, we're gonna hold 10 seconds. Okay, I got a big toe assistance here. Could be a big toe, could be a ball of the foot, could be the entire foot, could be no foot, wherever you wanna be. Hold a long reaching chest, back is flat. You can do a little check here like so if you need to. Rest, hip, other side. I'm gonna start with a little bit of assistance, do a few reps without assistance, come back to assistance as I did on my first leg. Let's begin. Right? If you were to put your finger right beside your hip here, the hip moves, it physically is driving backwards. Sometimes people have trouble hinging because it looks like this. The hip doesn't move, and it's round to the back. The hip goes backwards, right? 12, 18 inches behind me, or behind my starting position, I could say. If you're able to, make it a little bit harder. Let's do about 2 or 3 more. Last one, we're gonna hold for 10 seconds again, like the first leg. Long chest, breathing. Forehead is reaching long. Drive backwards, reach the hip backwards. 3, 2, 1. Good. Nice. Now for our second stick movement, we're gonna do some windmills. These are movements that I usually don't do too much in specificity. It's usually in a grouping of other movements like today. Grabbing your stick object. Hopefully your object is fairly wide, right? Might be a little bit challenging if you have something a little bit more narrow. Okay, we're gonna bring the stick on a diagonal behind the body. We're gonna tap the low back if we can. And we're gonna diagonally come across in the front on the other side. Okay, so again, I'm gonna lift my shoulders up as I come overhead. I'm gonna breathe, just like so. And we are going to perform 2 more. Okay, my elbows are straight, ideally yours are too, but they can bend if you need to. And just make sure that this movement is feeling somewhat smooth, it's not grinding or pinch on the shoulder. From behind, let's change direction. I'm gonna pull backwards to my right now, optionally tap the low back, and again, 2. Okay, 1 more. Good, pretty simple shoulder stuff. We're gonna have 1 more movement with the stick. Keep that at the ready. Okay, last hinging movement is gonna be quite a step up in terms of difficulty. So if after you see this last movement, you're like, "Ee, Will, not sure I'm ready for that," do the straddle good morning again, okay, for the same amount of reps as what I'm going to do. Remember that first movement we did, wide legs and hinging? I'm gonna do what's called a horse stance good morning. So just watch closely for a second whether you're a little bit more advanced, intermediate, or beginner. Feet are wide, toes are definitely gonna point outwards. Keep watching. I'm gonna get into a horse stance position, which looks something like this. And now I'm gonna hip hinge just like we've been doing. Drive the hips back, the head is long, the back is flat, and I stand tall in my horse stance position. There's way more going on with the hips here, okay? Requires a lot more strength and flexibility. So, you've been warned. that's a little bit much for you, return to the straddle good morning that we first started with. You could also do a second set of the one-legged good morning. I'm going to do 10 reps with the 10-second pause. Getting set up wherever you want to be. Knees are going to drive backwards here and hinge. Good. Back is flat. Hinge round 2. Gentle as you come forwards to that horse sit position, right? Sensitive with the hips. You can play around with the toes. Going into number 5. Looks a little bit ridiculous, but what things with me don't look a little bit ridiculous on the Human Movement channel? 3 more. Last one, big pause. 10 seconds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and up. Nice. That's a whole lot of work and a whole lot of good stuff for the hips if you're ready for that. Hope you selected an appropriate option for today. Okay, we're on 3rd round. Hips are feeling lively, shoulders are feeling greased up and good, I hope. Our last time through with our shoulders, I want to perform what I usually call a segmented dislocate. So a lot of times we do dislocates, we go back and forth. What we're going to work on is staying in one range of the dislocate for a few repetitions and then moving to a new range. Okay, it's like the first 20 degrees of the movement, next 20 degrees of the movement, and etc. If you're not quite sure, just pack up your bags, follow along, it'll make sense shortly. Okay, the first part of the raise is dead space. Not really much happens there and not really much is required to get there. So I want you to bring your stick about 45 degrees, okay, from like say a start position here. I want you to reach backwards to just overhead and then back to that start position 3, 4, or 5 times. Overhead, 45 degrees in front of the body, overhead, 1 more. Now, here's our new start position. Overhead, let's go to horizontal if you can, or not quite so far if you can't. 3, 4, 5 times. One more for me. And now I'm going to work from horizontal all the way to my low back or my butt and back. 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up. And now just 2 reps to feel the hard work you just did with that segmentation, which is going to be shrugging, lifting up, all the way around. Should feel like $1,000,000. All the way back, shrugging overhead, of course. Really nice. Okay, so that was a pretty easy segmentation, but you could do more reps. You could narrow your grip, and that would be a great way to overcome some plateaus if you're struggling with your width on your dislocate or improving that. Let's take a seat right away now as we move into another sequence. We're going to go right into one of my favorites, bear sit. So start facing you guys, resting your pinky toes on the floor if you can. Knees are kind of 90-degree bent. You can choke them backwards and then drive the knees upwards on an angle behind your body to help engage a stretch through here and here. You can also weight elbows down on the legs, okay? And of course from the side, we should see a flat back. We're just warming up here another 30 seconds of a passive bear sit stretch. And then on rounds 2 and 3, just like with our hinging work, we're gonna do some different stuff in our bear sit. Nice. Easy, gentle stretch. Doesn't need to be super, super intense. Good. Okay. Like our hinging work, we're going to pair this with some upper body stuff. And we're going to do a little bit of a blend here between some shoulder blade and some shoulder mobility. The first one we're going to do is going to be a scapular push-up, which most of you know, on your hands and knees, retracting and spreading your shoulder blades. But what we're going to add in today is trying to orbit the shoulder blades in all 4 directions that they can move in. So let's recap those. Shoulder blades can move up, they can retract, pinch backwards together, They can depress down, and they can glide forwards, okay? You're gonna try and work through those 4 positions on your hands and knees, which can look a little weird and definitely feel a little bit weird if you have not done these before. Go a little bit wider with your hands than you initially think, and try and get through those 4 positions with straight elbows. Retract. I like to pull the shoulder blades down. Then I like to spread them, okay, like the top of a push-up. Then pull your shoulders up to your ears, and then repeat. Retract, pull them together, pull them down, spread them, shoulder blades to ears, and again, one more time. Retract, pull them down, spread, and now try and reverse the direction. So I'm going to spread, pull them down, distance the length between my ear and my shoulders, retract, up, and 2 more times. Rounded, down, retract, up, spread / rounded, down, retracted. Nice. If that was a little bit in one ear, out the other, felt a little bit lost, just try that every day and you'll probably improve. Okay, round 2, bear sit. I need you to get into your bear sit position. It's nice and tall chest, okay? Then keeping your knees where they are as best you can, meaning they're not going to pop inwards, I want you to plant your hands behind your body. You can turn your fingertips anywhere you want for comfort. One leg at a time, pivot at your heel, and gently, slowly, look how slow I'm moving, try and internally rotate the hip, bring the face of the knee down inwards towards the floor, and then return to the start position, other side. So I'm going to really test my hip mobility if I absolutely do not move my torso. Look how still my torso is, and look how still my left hip is as I rotate through my right hip. If you want to move through your spine and your other hip a little bit, that's fine like this. See how much more distance I can get? It's just not as true of hip mobility, but it's not wrong. This would be a little bit more okay. Actually starting to tap into some more direct hip internal rotation, really being strict. 1 more per side, please. Right? Or less strict, watch my chest, watch my left hip, okay? I can get way lower because there's much more leniency there. 1 more on the other side. I'm gonna be strict though. Good. Okay, get that all a little shaky shake. We need to be half kneeling now, so you may want something for your knees. And we're going to do another movement that I do all the time, all the freaking time. But we're going to add a little bit of an embellishment with our stationary posture. So half lunged, get your left up like me so that we are aligned. And I want you to start to think about isometrically pulling your heel backwards. Okay? So this is the movement that would be happening, but it's an isometric, meaning you're not actually moving. So you're going to start to isometrically pull that heel backwards. You should feel some engagement through the hamstring. With your opposite hip, I want you to squeeze your butt and start to pull the hip forward isometrically. And now we have this antagonistic pressure, pulling back leg forwards, or pulling forwards leg backwards, pulling back hip forwards, okay? You should feel a little bit rooted and a little bit of challenge. Hamstrings working, hips working to pull yourself inwards. Now, arms at your sides, do not lose pressure with your forward heel. Pull it back to you. Do not lose pressure with your backwards hip. Pull it forwards. Maintain those pressures. See if I'm shaking here as you rotate thumbs down. Okay, straight arm capsular rotation. Maintain that forward heel pulling backwards, back hip pulling forwards as you rotate backwards with your thumbs. 2 more times. Thumbs down. Thumbs back. 1 more. Pull that forward heel backwards, pull the back hip forwards. There's a tongue twister. 1 more backwards. Good. Whew. If you're really trying to work that isometric, you're going to be feeling that. Other side now. Trap the leg in position if you're on carpet or something, that's going to be helpful. Isometrically pull the heel backwards. Feel the engagement and strength of the leg. Squeeze the back butt, left butt, and pull the hip forwards against one another. Now I need you to straighten your arms. Bend them at 90 degrees. Same thing, but bent arm. Keeping that pressure with your forward and backwards legs as you internally rotate. Maintain that forward heel pull backwards as you now reach your knuckles backwards. 2 more. Pull the back hip forward, squeeze your glute. Rotate the knuckles backwards. 1 more. Internally rotate down. And externally rotate the shoulders. Pull them back, reach your knuckles backwards behind you, and relax. A whole lot of work. Whew. Okay. We are going to go on to our last round through, and then we are all done. Returning to bear sit. Take a little pause, take a little break if you need to. And what we are about to do, there's a couple different levels of intensity that you can do this at, and I'll show you all of them. I'm just going to start with the easy ones, and then build up to more and more intense, and then you can select what you want to do as you watch and follow along. So, starting in the same position, this would be basic, easy. Hands are behind the body to spot. You're going to slide a leg outward, straighten it. Slide the other leg outward, straighten it, okay? To what we call a straddle position. Getting a little bit of tension in your stomach, a little bit of tension. Then I'm going to slide it back in, slide it back in. Okay, round 2. Going to keep a strong fist in front of the body as I do the same thing. In the end range, try and point the knees up to the ceiling. Pull it back in. You should have guessed round 3. Hands in front, clasped, something to get tension within the core and the torso. Straighten the leg, straighten the other leg. Think about pulling your chest forwards, pulling your belly button forwards to bring yourself into the straddle stretch where you're feeling the hip flexors say hello. Okay, pull back, and now a little bit harder would be hands behind your head. Stay with any of the previous 3 variations. Extend the leg, extend the leg. I'm going to pull myself forwards for a moment into the stretch. Woo. Pull back. Pull back. Last one if you so choose. Arms overhead. We saw this movement a few human sessions ago. Leg straight, pull my body forwards, engage the stretch more deeply. Big, tall chest. And reverse, and come on out from any position slowly with control. Rest on the legs for a second. Good. Okay, take a few moments as you come on out of that. Our last thing for the day, we're going to drill plank position to down dog 5, 6, 7 times. Every time you go to your down dog, think about widening the shoulders, reaching your nose to your toes, okay? You're trying to feel a stretch on the opening angle of your shoulders. We never want to feel it on the back, the pinching with this type of stretch. Your plank is your rest position, so rest there as long as you need to. With me, I'm going to go a little bit wider than I normally would for a push-up. I'm going to turn my fingertips outwards a bit, okay? I'm going to set into my plank with my feet nice and wide. And I'm going to drive myself backwards. Drop heels to the floor, reach nose to toes. Come forward my plank, reset on this slippery floor. Hope you got something better than me. That was better. Number 2, back to your plank. Make sure you push off your fingertips and thumbs as you reach nose to toes. Heels are flat. Here's 4. Each time, can you get your nose a centimeter closer to your toes than the last rep? 2 or 3 more. Last one. I think we're feeling good. I think we worked hard today. Fantastic. That was a great session. I had a lot of fun programming it and doing with you. Hope you had a lot of fun joining me. I will see you next time.